Hello, buddy. Good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and have we got some hot Manchester United news for you tonight? Not normally on a Tuesday night, not normally at 7 o'clock, but Ruben Amorim with an absolutely amazing statement about this Europa League. I mean, I can't actually get my head around it. Basically saying it's not a priority. We'll talk about that. Also, huge news coming in from Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail about Kobbie Mainoo's wage demands. 180 grand a week he wants, apparently. Is that the second time we've heard that in 3 months? What's going on there? Should we pay it? We'll talk about that as well. And also a very interesting thing from the overlap today in relation to Luke Shaw and a former physio basically saying that Luke Shaw is an issue at Manchester United. So we'll talk about that as well and a few other bits to get into. I certainly was planning tonight on talking about, you know, the cycle around Ruben Amorim and what I've seen again. And I don't know whether you've seen it, but I feel that people are starting to jump early on Amorim. Content creators, news sites, players, ex-players. Feels to me like, you know, we've been down this well-trodden path that we knew would happen under Ten Hag, and yet here it is going again. So we'll talk about that as well. But before we talk about that, what a show we've got for you tonight. It's going to be brilliant. I really want to get into those Amorim comments. Not a priority, the Europa League. I mean, I think that's a dangerous thing to say. But what's not dangerous is this absolutely incredible offer we've got for you. We're sponsored by HelloFresh tonight. Look at these beauties you can get. I'll tell you all about that in a moment. But the bottom line is, you, as a United Stand viewer exclusively, using the code UNITED2025, can get an incredible 50% off your first box and 25% off every box you get for the next 2 months. Then you also get free desserts for life as part of that. So what is HelloFresh? Well, let me take you on a culinary adventure, simplifying mealtime with its conventional meal delivery service. The choice is vast. You go on the website, accommodating all tastes. This weekend, I received a pack of boxes, delicious delights, including this pan-fried sea bass with jasmine rice, roasted broccoli, and young pea pods. I also got baked lamb meatballs and mash with red currant jus, roast roots, and cheese. And I also got creamy king prawn asparagus I can't read it, serrano ham, tagliatelle with honey mustard, rocket, and chives. I can't wait for this. I've got this tomorrow night. This is my Wednesday night feast. Baked rosemary lamb meatballs and mash. So you get all the ingredients. I'm salivating. You get all the ingredients. You get all the nutritional value. You get all the instructions. There is no need to go and buy any extras. It all comes in the box for you. You can go on the website. You can pick your own meals, whatever you want. They've got all sorts. You've got chicken. You've got vegetarian. You've got the lot. Delivered to your door, 50% off with that code UNITED2025. That's off your first box. Your next 2 months, you get 25% off as well. And you get free desserts for life. They come with those like goo pots that you can get as well, which are absolutely beautiful. So check it out. It's utmost convenience. Forget about the last minute groceries. Get your box from HelloFresh. Get your week sorted. Check it out. It's a no-brainer. 50% off. Get your first box. United 2025. Links in the description. Thank you very much to HelloFresh. Fantastic. Thank you very much to them. Okay, let's get into the show. Let's talk about what Ruben Amorim has had to say. So basically, look, let's just say, start off, I've got to thank Ruben Amorim for doing this interview because it's given us a whole section of a show I wouldn't have expected on a Tuesday night. But I will say I'd rather he hadn't said it. He does more interviews than Keir Starmer, who's the Prime Minister of the UK, who probably does 4 or 5 interviews a day. It's incredible to me how many interviews Ruben Amorim does. And I actually think we're at a point now where we should call it out. I feel that much the same as the Glazers with Ten Hag and Mourinho, there is nobody other than the manager that has to talk to everybody all the time. And here we have Ruben Amorim again, sort of twisting himself. And I think, you know, like if you play darts and somebody asks you to hit the bullseye and you hit it, and it's a fluke, and you can't do it every time. The more you do it, the more you're going to miss it. And I feel with Ruben Amorim, there were so many good interviews, but now it's almost like he's running out of material. It's like UK Gold. So we're trying stuff that's just, the more interviews he does, the more crap questions he'll get. And the more crap questions he gets, the more stupid answers we'll get. So I think that this is a question that just didn't need to be asked. And he's answered it again. And I think what it comes down to is he's got to be on side with Ineos, hasn't he? Because this is exactly what we were talking about this morning. I think our interpretation of Man United now is that we're basically a cash cow for the Glazers and Ineos who want to regenerate the area and double their money over the next 10 years. To do that, they've got to cut costs. To do that, they've got to wait. And the waiting games means kicking the ball down the road. So we've now got the manager saying that winning the Europa League, not being in Europe, is not a priority. It's about a longer term project. And look, I'll read what he said. So basically he was asked about, basically he's played down the value of winning the competition because he was asked about, the building blocks in place for success. Is it important to win a cup this season? And he said, of course, we lost last week in the FA Cup, so people are looking at this Europa League as the unique competition we can win. Also, the connection with winning the Europa League with the Champions League. But to tell you the truth, I think we have bigger things to think. I know it's strange to say that, but it's something we're trying to build here that is going to be more important than winning a cup in this moment. I know the responsibility we have to fight for every trophy, but in this moment, we're trying to build something that will last more than any trophy this season. I've read it so many times and I still don't really get what he's trying to say. It almost sounds like he's got shares in the regeneration project because I'm joking, but it's like when he says, I think we have bigger things to think. I know it's strange to say this, but it's something we're trying to build here that is going to be more important than winning a cup. What are we trying to build here that's going to be more important than winning the Europa League and getting ourselves into the Champions League? I don't get it. I just don't get what he's talking about. So he's basically saying that there are more important things than winning the Europa League. It's about building something for the future. And I'm like, they're not mutually exclusive. Like, you will build quicker for your future if you are in the Champions League. You will have more money if you win the Europa League. You will build your future quicker if we win the Europa League. I mean, what is he now? Is he now a spokesman for the regeneration project? Like, forget what goes on the pitch. We're looking to build a stadium and make a load of money over the next 10 years. I found it really weird, and I've read it so many times. But fundamentally, and Beth was on about this in our chat group, and she's absolutely spot on. What message does that send to you, and what message does that send to the players? Winning the Europa League is not the priority. How does that make you feel as a fan? And how does that make you feel as a player? It's okay if we get not locked out. Now, Jessica says maybe it's lost in translation. 100%. I back Amorim to the hilt. But I think what we've got here is the problem we've had for the last 10 years. Whether it be Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was terrible at it, wasn't he? Ten Hag at times. You end up in this position where you basically got to pick your side. You pick the fans or you pick the owners, and the owners pay your wages and you pick the owners, and it ends up causing issue with the fans. I think for the first few weeks, Amorim was in tune with us, building a relationship with us. And I think in the last few weeks, he's saying more and more stuff that fits in tune with an incompetent ownership. And I think this is the manager spinning PR for the owners because they know full well that not winning the Europa League, not winning the FA Cup is a disaster, but they need to spin it into a positive. And what better way to do it than to get your manager to publicly say it's not a priority because we're building something for the future. And I call it total bullshit. And if Ruben Amorim wants to have an interview, I'll say it to his face because I like him and I respect him, but I'd say this to his face: Ruben, I don't know why you're doing this. You've got the fan base in your hand. Don't throw us away. Don't start talking stuff that is illogical. You've made a really big statement there, and it's not one that people are going to get on board with. What Man United fan is going to sit there, having been knocked out the FA Cup, 14th in the Premier League, prospect of no Europe next season, clubs in crisis financially? What Man United fan is going to sit here tonight and go, you know what, he's right. It's not a priority to beat Sociedad and win that trophy. The priority is to do something, we don't know what, in the future. I mean, what is it? What is more important than winning the Europa League for the future? The Europa League gives us money. The Europa League puts us in the Champions League. Liverpool have earned £90 million already by being in the Champions League. In a year's time, we might have £90 million of revenue. We'll have zero if we're not in Europe. It's horseshit. It's complete and utter nonsense. It's spin. It's ridiculous. It's incredible. It's amazing. It's stunning. And I'm right. And I'm right. £90 million Liverpool have made from being in the Champions League so far this year. And apparently that's not important. Of course it's important. Of course it is. He's looking at the bigger picture, Mark, says Jeff. I know he is, Jeff. And that's why I've read it 10 times and I still don't get it. Because the bigger picture is not... Basically, Jeff, I'll give you an analogy, right? You're the love of my life. Not you, Jeff. But let's call you Jennifer. You're the love of my life. Well, obviously I'm married, but this is a hypothetical. Right, you're the love of my life, yeah? Okay. And I have an opportunity to ask you to marry me and there's a chance you're going to say yes. But I say, no, it's absolutely fine. You go off, go on a girls' holiday to Magaluf and have a great time. What goes on tour stays on tour, right? Off you go, you fall in love with a local and I've lost you forever. But don't worry, I've got a bigger plan. I haven't got a bigger plan. The plan is to win. We're Manchester United. If I marry you, we have kids, we have a great life together, that's great. Why would you ignore what's staring you in the face? Like, nobody can sit here tonight and tell me that Ruben Amorim is correct. Nobody can tell me that he is right to say, winning the Europa League doesn't matter because we've got a bigger plan. Winning the Europa League gets you in the Champions League, gets you more money, allows you to buy more players, gets you in the Champions League where you could win it, gives you more gravitas, gives you better opposition, where your system can work quicker against better opposition. Not winning it gives you no money and no European football. How can that be better for the future? We're Manchester United, for God's sake. Why do we have to put up with this ridiculous notion that we can be successful by cutting costs, that we can be successful by losing? I don't care what anybody says. I know I'm right. I know I'm absolutely right. And I also know that by saying to the fans that there's a bigger picture here than winning the Europa League, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Because I've played the game. I know the game. And I know the cycle. And if you don't qualify for the Europa League, you've gone from the top half of the table to the bottom half of the table, and you've gone out of every trophy you've been in. You failed in your first season. Now, that's not me talking. That's every analyst, every ex-player, every media outlet, and to be honest, already some of our fans. Not many people over the last 10 years turn that around, no matter what you think. One thing a Man United manager will not get is patience. And they will not get patience when they've had 8 months of failure. They just won't get it. They won't. So I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And I've seen it already, mate. I've seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. And I'll call it out. I have seen already some of our fans jumping early because I saw it with Mourinho. People went early on Mourinho. They went about 8 months early on Mourinho. I saw it with Ten Hag. They went 12 months early. They went early on Ollie. It's a running theme in our fan base to try and jump early on a manager. And people are already doing it. People you watch, people you follow, ex-legends you like, they're already really doing it. And some of them are starting being vocal about it. Some people have already given up on Amorim. You know I'm right. You know it. I don't know what you watch. I don't know what you listen to. I don't know what you read. I've seen it with my own eyes in ex-players. I believe that certain ex-players have been Amorim out for about a week, for about a month. I just don't think they want to say it because the backlash will be big. This is already starting. And I don't know who's advising Amorim because I want him to stay. I ain't going to go against Amorim. I didn't go against Ten Hag. I don't believe in sacking managers. But he's being advised badly. You cannot sit there and send a message to the fans that effectively there's a bigger plan than winning the Europa League this year. When 2 weeks ago we just sacked another 200 people. When 2 weeks ago we were told that the club's absolutely on its arse. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Sajid says you've become toxic. How can I be toxic when I'm sticking up for the manager, mate? How can I be toxic when I'm calling the manager out and warning him to be very, very careful because I know how this fan base works, I know how the media works, and I know people are turning on him already. I like Amorim. I don't like what he said in that interview because to me, it sounds like Team Ineos spin. I've never heard such shit in all my life that the Europa League is not a priority and that there's a bigger picture out there. It's incredibly naive again. Liverpool have earned £90 million by being in the Champions League this year. We're saying that not being in the Champions League and not winning the Europa League isn't part of the plan. Come on. Money makes the world go around. We need that money. And I also, you know what? Well, you know something we can all agree on as well? We all know how these players work. 100% we know how these players work. If I said to you, do Man United's players like to blame shift? Yes or no? 100% of you, top answer, says yes. They love to blame other people. So if Amorim is saying publicly, well, you know, if we don't win the Europa League, it's not as important as other things, the players are going to be listening to that as well. But I tell you what, I really would hope that people like Bruno Fernandes are listening to that and going, not on my watch. Bruno Fernandes is going to be 31 next. This is, you know, Champions League football. It's criminal. Whatever you think about Bruno, the amount of times he's played in the Champions League since he was 25 is criminal. I don't think he's been in the Champions League 50% over the last 6 years. So he's going to be looking at this wanting to win, and hopefully everybody else does as well. Maybe it's reverse psychology, but it's a dangerous game to play. I've said my piece. You can have your say. I've lost all faith in the team during the last match, says Toby. Knowing our players' inability to cope with pressure, maybe he's trying to take the pressure off, says Glenn C. I think he's trying to say that the only proof of success is doing well in the league, says Matthew. But it's not. It's not. Jose Mourinho, his idol, literally was in this position when we won it against Ajax, and he abandoned the league to win the Europa League. Eric Ten Hag last season, FA Cup, rescued our season, didn't it? So you take what you can get. I'm convinced players have crazy wage cuts in their contracts if we aren't in Europe. What a weird oh my shitting pants. Reece just completely and utterly stole the show. This is why I love this community. Every now and again, you get a comment where you go, I never would have thought of that in this show. So Reece is saying, I'm convinced we've got players who've got crazy wage cuts in their contracts if we're not in Europe. What a weird thing to come out with. Wage drop, players go. Well, it's a bit like the Bermuda Triangle, the Loch Ness Monster. We know more about that than we do about players' contracts. But if we're not in Europe at all, I would imagine Reece is right. I would imagine if we're not in Europe at all, there is a very big pay cut. But the counter to that, Reece, of course, is the amount of money you earn from the Champions League. Those wages aren't going to bother you massively anyway. We're not going to be in the Europa League or the Conference League. We can only be in the Champions League, and the money's massive. Are you the new Ainsley Harriott, said Mark, says Ardo. And did we not take Arsenal's physio team, says Jahid. I think we did. Okay, I want to just catch up on a couple of comments here. So David Brailsford's Mission 21 is actually about reducing the Manchester United staff down to 21 people by 2028, says Chuff Bridge. Thank you, my goat, says Reece Gregory. Hope you're doing well, mate. Good comment. He's playing mind games with Rail's manager, says Andreas. And Mark, do you think that this team can win the Europa League? I do, Ja, I do. Patrick Lynch says, I feel Amorim is saying this because in some ways he is hedging his bets with regards to the Europa League. I think he knows it's important, but it's a pressure valve right now and he's trying to ease it. I hope so. And Brandon says, Glinios probably hired Amorim knowing that it wasn't going to work and the media would focus on him. Now they can dismantle the club in public, make off like bandits and take no heat from the media. Thank you very much, Brandon. Look, I want this manager to be successful. I think this manager has done a great job of communicating with us over the last few months. I don't want that to change. Many people felt that Ten Hag was a different man in his second season than he was in his first season. And look, there are protests, there is anger, there is frustration. Ruben Amorim is somebody that we, majority, like and want to do well. And but in doing that, we also have to call out things that are concerning. And I think that interview today was a little bit concerning. In no way, shape or form does that make me think any less of him. I think he's the right guy at the wrong club. Many people ask me what I think about Amorim. I think he's the right guy at the wrong club with the wrong owners and the wrong squad. And, you know, a chef isn't going to fit a bathroom for you, is it? And a bathroom fitter's not going to cook you a Michelin star dinner. We've basically put somebody into a situation where I think they can only fail. And it will probably end with the sack. The one thing he has in his armoury is owners that don't want to be seen as incompetent again and probably can't afford to replace him. So I think Amorim will be here for a long time. If you're one of those fans that are thinking of jumping against him as well, then you are part of the problem, because it's way too early. An educated football fan knows it's way too early to jump on Amorim, and if he fails, he will fail because of the circumstances he's been thrown into. I don't think he's even started his job. I really don't think he's even started his job yet. The players don't suit his system. He's had one player, and he's not had a pre-season. I don't think his job really starts till August, but he is in place now, and he's got to do everything in his power to win that Europa League, and we are capable of doing it. That's the challenge. The club's plan must include overhauling the squad. Surely even the owners know that. Yes, they're doing their very best to drive us away from the only way to fund it. Consistent performance, says James Cave. Europa League, we were in a title race or maybe in a top 4 race. I would understand it would be ridiculous even then, but it's ridiculous now, says SG. Thank you very much for your comments. Right, let's talk about Mainoo. So this came in. I need to read this verbatim because I don't want to get it wrong. So Chris Wheeler in the Daily... Now, somebody in the chat might be able to remind me of this, but I believe there was a number of outlets in early January that said Mainoo was demanding 200k a week. And I lost it because I said, look, he's a teenage kid who's massively important to our future. Why is his wage demands leaking? And I think that's the first thing I would say here. Fair play, Chris Wheeler's a good journalist and has had some exclusives, especially over the last 12 months. And I like Chris Wheeler as far as journalists go, and I don't like a lot. But I would say, why is Mainoo's wage demands leaking? It's not fair. I don't trust Manchester United Football Club, and I do not trust the Glazers. So why is Mainoo's wage demands being leaked again? To make us go, he's not worth it, and subconsciously think, let's sell him in the summer. They've tried to sell him in January, at the start of January, and the same thing happened. They tried to sell Garnacho as well, and fans were like, what the hell are you doing? That's not what we're all about. But we're not about a lot of things at the moment. We've lost our identity completely. We're an embarrassment as a football club, and some of the things we do are abhorrent, horrible. So I look at this story and I go, I don't question it. And we can talk about the wage demands in a minute, but I do question why it's being leaked out. And I think the only people who benefit from this are the club. If you can unsettle Mainoo and make him unpopular in the fan base or greedy, then you start to move towards the thing that probably excites them at night time as they go to bed. You know, the missus walks in and they're ignoring it, thinking about, you know, pure profit on selling a player like that. So I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. And I know the volume of credible journalists at the start of January that were talking about selling Mainoo and Garnacho came from the club. So when I read this about his wage demands, the first thing I think is, oh, yeah, I get all this. Everything is spin. Everything is PR. This is just the drip, drip, drip of the shower to make people turn on Mainoo and say cash in and let's get somebody else. Pure profit. And I think that's what it's all about, because his wage demands should not be getting leaked. They shouldn't be, but there you go. Is he worth 180k a week? No, absolutely not. But I have to be very careful here because I feel that I do not want Mainoo leaving Man United. I don't want Garnacho leaving Man United. I think replacing them with a new player. Tell me the last... Look, I get it. Some people would say, I'd rather sell him for 70 million and buy a couple of players. Okay, I get it. People said it in January about Garnacho. I'd rather take the 60 million and bring a couple of players in. But tell me in the last 10 years, how many players have come in the summer and hit the ground running? And how many players have taken 18 months to settle in? So if we get rid of established players for new players, we're basically writing off another season. And in that season, we'll probably sack the manager again, and then a new manager will come in. He won't like the players that have been bought, and we'll be back where we are again. What we need is stability at this football club. What we need is consistency at this football club. And that's not just with the manager. I think that's also with the playing squad as well. I don't want to see Mainoo leaving Man United. I really, really don't. I am doing watch-alongs. That's why we're a little bit early, yes. I'm struggling to read at the moment. I had this eye operation last night, and my vision sort of drops in and out. So I'm just trying to focus. I'm focusing on this lovely meal. Yeah, focusing on that. There we go. So if I'm looking down for a moment, I'm just focusing on something just to focus my eyes. Okay. But look, I'm not going to be a coward. I'm not going to not comment, even though I think it's spin and part of the plan. Mainoo is not worth 180k of any club's money. Absolutely not. It's ridiculous money. Like, he's not worth it. He's 19. He's not necessarily established first team as well. I think under Ten Hag he was, but I don't think under Amorim you could say that Mainoo was an established first teamer yet. What's his position? He's still learning the game. He's still very, very young. So I would be putting him on a bonus-based wage, which I think a lot of people should be on, which tops out no more than probably 140 grand a week. And that's based upon numerous targets. Look, we've educated ourselves as football fans over the last couple of years in relation to, it's not about having £100 million to spend in the summer because you could buy 6 players with that. It's about instalments. We can never predict what the budget is in a summer anymore, but we used to, because it's all about instalments. And wages should be the same. You should have a base wage, which is then topped up by whether you start for the first team and things like that, and the success of the team. So 180 grand is ridiculous. And look, he went to the Euros last year. I'm sure he can make a claim, but yeah, that wage needs to come down. I don't know what we pay. I don't know what we pay Yoro, but I think those two players should be working in symmetry, really. I think that's the way it should be working. But yeah, what I really want to focus on, though, is yet again, why are Mainoo's wage demands being leaked and who benefits from that? And it's certainly not Mainoo, and it's certainly not Amorim. I think this is about, look, United, if United are going to sell Garnacho for pure profit, whoever buys him knows we're desperate. If we might be selling Mainoo as well, you've got 2 options that might push the price up. So, Mark, when we don't sign players in the summer, it's nearly autumn before we get deals over the line. Look at how Liverpool do their business early so that new players have a full pre-season, says Double D. I don't expect us to get many early deals done this summer. I really, really don't. I think it will be the same again. Last night, I listened to Jose's Football Heritage speech after the Champions League knockout. You'd think he had a crystal ball. It's all penning out, as he said, says Dennis. I'd love to read that again, actually. If it's fair for Bruno, it's fair for Mainoo, says Sheriff. I don't think it was fair for Bruno. So I don't know why you're comparing Bruno to Mainoo. Weird take, mate. Weird take. I think he'll get to 180k player in the next 2 or 3 years. So if it's a 5-year contract, 160 to 180k might not be too bad. I don't think you can do that, Shahin. You can't give somebody 180k now because they might be worth it in 5 years. You've got to factor it in. You know, you've got to revisit the contract. You've got to have a clause to revisit it in a year or 2. They're doing all this to save 90 million because of 25% wages reduction not in Europe, hoping it will lure players away from the club, says Rajiv. I'm going to work this out. I mean, look, yeah, I mean, I can't, I don't know how much we'd save by not being in Europe, really. Garnacho, worst big chance conversion, definitely sellable, says Simply Red. Thank you very much for that. Also, I just wanted to bring in as well, very interesting, if you saw it earlier on, they had an ex-Man United physio on the YouTube thing that Carragher and Paul Scholes do. And he was talking about Luke Shaw. Now, this is quite interesting because I mean, basically, Luke Shaw, if you saw the clip, it's not good. It's really not good. So this ex-Man United physio basically said he didn't have a lot to do with Luke Shaw. It was somebody else who dealt with him. But he worked in the same department as the guy that worked with Luke Shaw. And what he basically said is that Luke Shaw gave this coach a bottle of champagne because he was constantly late. The coach wasn't late. The physio wasn't late. Luke Shaw was constantly late for his appointments. So one thing, another player being consistently late. And then Scholes asked him why it is that Luke Shaw constantly gets injured. And he sort of alluded to it being because he doesn't warm up properly. So, I mean, look, it's out there. You can see the clip. It's been tweeted out a lot as well. This ex-Man United physio has basically said that Luke Shaw turns up late and he doesn't warm up properly. So, I mean, it's just, if we, like somebody said earlier, if we were third in the league playing good football, we'd still be outraged by that, but we'd be like, get rid of that attitude, get rid of it. But where we are at the moment, it's almost like you go, I'm not surprised. Because there are so, we're sacking people. We're 14th in the league. We're out the FA Cup. We need a goalkeeper. We need this. We need that. Hearing that about Luke Shaw, you just sort of like go, well, he'll still be here next year, won't he? It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, Luke Shaw's biggest contribution to 2025 was a TikTok video. We're paying him, 150 grand a week? But the culture in that football club's a joke. An absolute joke. And it's not surprising, isn't it? But look, that's not... sometimes you get this sort of stuff coming in from a journalist or whatever, and you sometimes think, well, as we know, some journalists have an axe to grind and might be putting it out there from a source, a dressing room source. But this was a bloody ex-employee physio saying it, which is incredible. Simply Red says, what do you make of Mount out with Chelsea players? I don't massively care, mate. I don't massively care. I really don't care. Look, Jadon Sancho plays for Chelsea. Marcus Rashford played for Man United. There was constantly interaction on Instagram. It's exactly the same. They're just mates. You won't get your hat on the fact that Bruno is good mates with the Portuguese players at Man City. Like, I'm not. What I'm saying is, it's just the same. Bruno Fernandes may have gone out for a meal with Bernardo Silva at the weekend. It happens a lot. Now, I don't think it used to happen much in the Keane days and the Neville days and the Becks days. I don't think it used to happen, but in the modern game, they're all mates. Luke Shaw will be tight with every England player. John Stones, they'll all be mates. Football today is far more about it being a profession than an actual passion. They get a lot more money for a lot less passion. But look, I can't knock Mason Mount because there'll be loads of them doing that. So I don't have a problem with it. Socialising, can do what he likes. It's not in his contract that he can't. My big issue with Mason Mount is that there he is meeting up with Chelsea players and I see him as a Chelsea player. I don't see him as a Man United player. I don't think we will see him as a Man United player. I don't see a way back for Mason Mount. I really don't. I said at the start of the season, and it's interesting sometimes thinking back to what you said. I remember at the start of the season when we were predicting what was going to happen and Mason Mount was fit, and I said, if he's going to have a career at Man United, year one has been littered with injury. Year two, he's got to stay fit till Christmas. And I think, well, he didn't. And he's not fit again now. He got injured against Man City in the first few minutes in the middle of December, having just come back from, I think, his second injury of the season already. And we don't even know what he's done. And he's not going to be back till April. So effectively, he's out for 4 months. And we don't know why. And that's season 2. Netflix ain't giving him a season 3. Season 1 was crap. Season 2 was even worse. You're not getting renewed, mate. Obviously, Man United will give him a season 3. But from my point of view, I ain't giving him a season 3. I've given up. I ain't watching it anymore. So I don't know how he passed the medical, says Shaw. I like the player. I like the lad. And I genuinely think if he was fit and able to play, he would bring something to the team. And that's the sad thing. I think he's a good player. But fitness-wise, absolutely done. And as we got told a few months ago, he has an underlying, I think it's a pelvic thing, a pelvic contusion or something like that. I think he had. Apparently it was so severe that a few years ago it would probably be a career ender. But even when he gets back, there is a weakness there that will lead to other injuries. So that was a rumour that was going around last summer. And here we are again with another season of injuries. So, yeah, I mean, it's not great, is it? It's not great at all. Goodbye, Mainoo. Good luck. The days of stupid wages are over, says Manny. I heard the other day that the Ineos company is rambling, looking to cut sponsorships all over the place. Their deal with Mercedes F1 is unstable, says Justin. Flooding the megastore with non-buying customers, says Buggy. And hi, Mark. Hope you're well, says Slow Sports News. There is so much spin that I struggle to see the plan to make us a better successful club again. Their ideas make no sense. Look, I was out today down the shop and somebody recognised me and came over for a chat about Man United. And they asked me, do you think Amorim will survive? And I said what I'll say here now. I think he will be sacked in the next 12 months because I think the cycle is there. And I can see it already. I can already see people turning on Amorim, the same people who turned on Ten Hag and never shut up every single day for about a year. I can already see it. And I'm like, when that starts, it's a slippery slope to inevitability. And I don't think you're going to help yourself by going, yeah, winning the Europa League is not a priority. We've got a bigger vision. As Rooney said at the weekend, you don't get 3 or 4 years in modern management. I think you need it. I think Man United needs somebody that's here for the next 5 years. I think maybe it needs to get worse to get better. But you don't get that, not with this fan base. We're not set up to be patient anymore. The media certainly is obsessed with Man United and isn't set up to be patient anymore. And I can't see the summer transfer window improving that much. If he got 9 players in the summer and got rid of 9 players, I think next season we would gradually get better and better. I think he'll get 4 or 5. And he'll end up keeping quite a lot of players. And the same issues will be there. Look, a great point is this. If Delo continues like this and plays like this next season, that's a problem. If Onana is the goalkeeper next season and does what he's done this season, there'll be some good games and there'll be games where he costs us goals. That's 2 players straight away where you're going, okay, they're going to cost us results. There's a lot more than that. There's a lot more than that. We might change the striker, but if we don't get enough service into them, they won't score enough goals. So that'll be problematic as well. So I don't think he can solve the problems. And I'll tell you why. Because the problems are too many. I look at Arsenal, striker, another midfielder, you're pretty much there. I look at Liverpool, if Salah goes, it's a big thing to fill, but and Trent, you've got to fill those 2 areas. I look at Man City and I go, if you get Rodri back and maybe a decent centre-back as well, you'll be ready to go again. I look at Man United and I go, we've not got 2 or 3 problems. We've got about 30 on and off the pitch. The fitness department's still a massive problem. You know, how impactful is it going to be sacking half your workforce? Yeah? Why is Amorim doing all the interviews every bloody day? Yeah? I'm speaking like Ten Hag. Yeah, you know, we've got too many problems for Amorim to solve in one summer. And we've also got an ownership that people don't like. And people don't want to be patient with things that they don't like. Biinda or Onana, who stays longer, says Ross McRae. Well, look, you know, when we got that penalty shootout against Fulham, my initial thought was, shit. It was Biinda who was in goal against Arsenal for that penalty shootout. I heard the other day that I've done that one from Justin. Onana is yeah. I don't want to individualise this chat because I think it's been a good chat. Anyway, big shout out to HelloFresh. Do not forget your 50% off your first box. Fantastic little promotion exclusively for you there, and I'll certainly be looking forward to my baked rosemary lamb meatballs and mash tomorrow. All the ingredients delivered to your door. Check it out through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code. Also, don't forget, if you're live in the live chat, 2 weeks tomorrow. I can't believe it's only 2 weeks tomorrow. Every day I'm sort of like coming up with ideas for stuff, and I'm going to have to cut a load of it. I'm going to be like Ineos on this live show because I've got too much material. So I'm going to have to cut some. But that'll be a good thing. I'll try and keep all the good stuff in. So 2 weeks tomorrow in Dublin is our United Stand 10-year anniversary show. Really excited about it. We're very close to 1,000 tickets, by the way, actually, which would be great to achieve. But we have still got some tickets available. So if you want to be there, 2 weeks tomorrow night in Dublin. It's going to be amazing. Really excited about it, and it'd be great to see you there. Got some good interactive stuff going on, some good prizes, some good handouts, and handouts, not jobs. Nothing like that. It's a family show, although it probably won't be. But yeah, thank you everybody. Why is it in Dublin? Because I think I see Dublin as it's the city that sort of sparked the idea to do this. And it just felt right that was the place I did it. And I know some people don't get it, but Dublin's really important to me. It's the I went there at like 18 and it changed who I am for the rest of my life. So it's an important place to me. And when you're going to do a 10-year show and talk about topical stuff, but also the United stand, I wanted to do it somewhere that really resonated with me as the journey where it started. And Nottingham's irrelevant. I never really used to go into Nottingham that much anyway, and I certainly have got very little connection to it. So yeah, that is, and it is very different now, Nick. But where we're doing the show, well, look, I'm not going to give too much about it away, but very excited to see it. And thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. And if you want to speak to me more, I'm live for both Champions League games, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and PSV against Arsenal. We're going to be live over on That's Football in about 5 minutes' time. Fantastic show tonight. Didn't expect to get such good conversations to talk about, but really big stuff. So if you didn't watch live, make sure you leave your comments in. I'm sure there'll be some good ones. And Delusional Unicorn says, evening Mark, say we don't get in Europe next year, but players are sold and bought who suit Amorim's system, and we managed to get top 4. What are your thoughts on that? Never going to happen, mate. You sound like Sir Jim Radcliffe. Never going to happen. We're too far off. We're not going from 14th to top 4 in a year. It ain't going to happen. We're not Leicester. This league is too competitive. We've just had the most competitive Premier League I've seen in over a decade. We are not going from 14th to 4th next year. It'll be no European football and no top 4 this time next year. It ain't going to happen. It's unfair to think it's going to happen. And when it doesn't happen and you expect that, that'll be what sacks Amorim. Not going to happen. I'd love it to happen. I'd love to be wrong, but it's not going to happen. Anybody with a brain knows it's not going to happen because Chelsea are better than us, Liverpool are better than us, Arsenal are better than us, City are better than us, and actually so are Villa, Brighton, Newcastle, even Fulham and all them lot. We're not going to close that gap that quick. Not going to happen. Which is why the miracle needs to be winning the Europa League to give us the money to do what we need to do. Take care, everyone. I'll see you on That's Football. Don't forget HelloFresh. And thank you everyone for watching. We're back in the morning. Take care.